Here are some common problems in no particular order. We learn our finger patterns in first position, but when we shift up into third position, or maybe in fourth, fifth position, however you're going to play some of these other things in the first violin part, do the students still understand the finger patterns? And when I listen to orchestras play this, sometimes the answer to that is no. Sometimes we have F sharps in third position on the A string. Sometimes they're F naturals. Sometimes we have C sharps in third position on the E string. Sometimes they're C naturals. So is it high 3 or low 3? Is it the augmented pattern or the major pattern? Is it the 3-4 pattern or the 2-3 pattern? Whatever terminology you use for those patterns. You see an example of this here in 75, where they're playing the F natural. A lot of times this is out of tune, or there's because they don't understand the finger pattern and how that changes with the natural. Same thing here back in 71. There's a C natural here. If your students played this in fifth position, they're going to be playing an augmented pattern, and now they have to switch patterns. A lot of times the students miss this note too, and it really stinks because it kind of ends the phrase here, and we got these rests. This whole section here from 67 all the way to 83 is pretty tricky. The texture is just pretty open, and we've got a lot of split parts in the violins. We've got, split octaves here and all kinds of stuff. It's just really hard. So this is definitely a part where you're going to have to go over quite a bit because it's really out of tune. Now, you don't have to have too many players play the top part. If you've got students that aren't comfortable with fifth position, or they're struggling with that or whatever, you can have them play the lower part. You're probably going to want to have more students on the lower part than on the higher part anyway. So just doing the traditional inside-outside divisi may not be your best pathway to success there. Maybe you should do it by stand. Okay, first stand, you play the top octave, everybody else play the lower octave, or I don't know how many violins you have, but maybe just the first two desks play the top part. I would even do the same thing with the second violins. Even though they don't really have to shift for any of this stuff, they should actually probably be playing this in half position. But in any case, you're going to want to have more of the lower octave than the upper octave anyway. Another teaching strategy could be to have everybody play the bottom octave just to start off with, and then diversify later. And that way they can get the pitches into their ears. A lot of this stuff is octaves, but it's within the section. So the first violins might be playing in octaves, and the second violins might be playing in octaves, but they're not all octaves together. The writing is fairly independent here. Right here in 81, we have a ritardando, and we've got these sustained notes here. Are they going to have enough bow to make it to the fermati here before 83? And in my experience as a contest judge, the answer to that is often no, they don't. So what can you do? You can break these bows. I mean, there's no law against that. And look, you've got a lift here before the fermati anyway. So you're going to play this, you're going to lift, you take a little bit of a pause here, and then play this note, and then go on to a tempo at 83. So you can definitely break this bowing. It is getting softer, but you still need to have tone, right? And you need to have enough bow speed to have good tone. So definitely break this bow if you need to. That's what I do with my orchestras, and they sound better when they do it. Speaking of tempo changes, we've got this ritardando at 95, and we're playing through, and then all of a sudden we have an a tempo at 98, but just for a measure, and really just for cellos. Viola's got a fine beat too, but everybody else, they don't care if the tempo changes. And then a meno mosso here. So this measure can be very awkward, and it's something that you're going to need to practice, to get your cellos going faster here in this measure, and then slowing back down here towards the end. This last pizzicato note in basses, you're going to need to cue your basses. You're going to need to give them that note. Everybody's sustaining. You don't need to beat time 1, 2, 3, 1. Just hold it like it's a fermata. It's not a fermata, but just hold it. 1, 2, 3, cue your basses, or you can go 1, 2, 3, cue your basses this way, wherever your basses are, whichever hand is more practical for that. But, you can cue and then release on beat 2. I'm going to go over some general ideas for problems with lullaby. And first of all, students need to be able to keep a straight bow. If they can't keep a straight bow, their tone's not going to be good, and this piece is just not going to sound great. So practicing long bows, season 1, episode 1, I've got a demonstration video on long bows. I think those are very important. I start class almost every day with long bows just to get my students to grip the string and play with a straight bow. They need to feel that resistance on the string. That's why I say grip the string. With the bow hair, they need to be able to feel that resistance so that they can play with a straight bow, have enough friction to keep that bow put in place. There are some places where they need to adjust and change bowing lanes. They need to point the tip down towards the bridge to get into a lower bowing lane, then point it back up towards the pegs to get back up to a traditional bowing lane, when they're shifting with the left hand. But generally, you don't want to have them play too high over the fingerboard and most of this stuff. And particularly in cellos and in basses, they tend to do that quite a bit. That's just a common problem that they have in general. It's because of their bow hands and that pinky tension. You're just getting them to loosen up the bow hand, get them to grip the string, get them to play in all parts of the bow. That's tricky to do for cellos, but with all the string crossings here in the cellos, if you're trying to cross strings and play with a crooked bow, it's going to be extremely difficult. The next general comment that I would say about lullaby is that there is hardly any phrasing from some orchestras. I mean, they're playing the notes and they're playing the rhythms, and it sounds okay. This 2-bar introduction, and then we start our first 4-bar phrase, and there's no dynamics indicator, right? Like, it doesn't say anything about phrasing here, but we still need to be able to shape the phrase and grow the phrase and then taper back and grow the next phrase and taper back, etc., all throughout the piece, and give this piece some momentum and give it some musicianship. It makes a huge difference when we can do that. What will kill a 4-bar phrase? Well, if we swipe an up bow, if we accent a quarter note down bow before a half note up bow, if we do something silly like that, it's going to absolutely crush the phrase. The phrase is supposed to take us somewhere, right? And it needs to do so progressively. If we're trying to do this and then pop, it's going to be very distracting. It's not going to make for good phrasing. All right, that's all the time I got for lullaby. Hope you enjoyed my take. Again, if I forgot something, and I probably did, please drop in the comment section below, and I hope to see you in the next video.